this will be for our veterans. For 22 seconds, we'll just take a moment of silence.
Thank you, Michael. My name's Steve Larson. It's an honor to be here. I got to come last year, got to meet Michael. I'll tell you how we met here in just a minute. The other speakers, I thought they were going to steal my thunder because I have scripture too. And scripture is very important to us because we're all here because of our faith, because God watches over us. You may have heard of this one before, Matthew 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. There's a reason for that, and the channel talked about peace. As peacemakers, seeking peace, it's not just those in uniform. It's everybody that works, strives, makes attempt, makes effort, prays for peace. Everybody that has peace in their heart is a peacemaker. That's the general consensus through the Bible for that verse. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed is my wife, Shauna. She's been married to me for 28 years of the most chaos somebody can have in uniform. I thank God for everything. My father was a preacher, so I grew up in church. I grew up with faith and believing. Number one and number two, God and my wife, my family. You know how it is. 9/11 is a day about family as well. They talked about statistics. 2,997 people died. 343 firemen. 23 NYPD officers that died that day. They missed an important number. Over 10,000 died from cancer as a result of that day. But you know who else was the peacemakers in New York City on that day? Everybody that stopped. The electricians, the plumbers, those that helped to carry the bodies, to drive the bodies, to bring water, to bring food to the first responders. They were equally as important to everybody in uniform. And thank you all in uniform. I think he's hiding from my view, the officer in the corner back there. He's 2 years younger than my oldest daughter. I'm 56 years old. I got to talk to him and meet him a little bit ago. Family. The day that 9/11 happened was probably the biggest, like Michael said, the most important event in our life. It also began something for a lot of us. Something that I know the two of you, those two over there in shirts and uniforms, they began collecting patches, shirts. You have a t-shirt collection at home, don't you? All kinds of stuff. One of them probably got a flag on it like me. My middle child got this for my birthday this year. I am a husband. I'm a father of 3. I'm a grandfather. I'm a protector and I'm a hero in her eyes, in their eyes, as all of you are. Thank you for that, for your service. But we began for the first time working together regardless of political feelings, regardless of race, regardless of religious beliefs. We worked together because there was a tremendous event standing right in front of us. I wasn't there. I've never been to New York City, but it changed my life here in Kentucky as a deputy at Boone County Sheriff's Department. Everybody there went through a lot. You signed up here all. Some gave all gave some. A lot of us are still giving. You don't retire from the uniform and the badge. I'm here to tell you. My wife texted me earlier. I was talking about Michael and us getting through this day. It's very emotional. And now's the time. I want to thank Michael and Cynthia for being a part of our lives for this event. I love you, brother.
I love you.
This is the hardest speech. I taught self-defense to police for 26 years. I've made a lot of videos on my YouTube where I talk. I've been on stage. I've been involved in politics. Different story for the last 2 years. But to talk about something that I've seen way too much, and that is tragedy. I've been at the plane crashes, the explosions. I've carried babies. Last summer I got a phone call from the boss who was running for political office. Call this guy Michael Peters down there in London. He's talking about this event, wants me to come and speak. That's how I met Michael. That phone call lasted for an hour. And I promise you, Both of us went through about a half a box of tissues to get through that phone call on that day. I don't know if I'll be able to finish this without the heart getting to me. The things that he told me he saw with his search and rescue dog is unbelievable. He told you earlier he never found anything bigger than a hand. I've carried more than a hand out. I've carried babies out. The things you never want to see in your life. You don't want to see a plane crash with 300 people in there. You don't want to be there that day. It did steal my thunder here in the scripture, Psalms 23. But you know, as intently as he's watching me down here in the front row, when that call came out over the radio, when they saw and they knew the plane crashed, they didn't just run into the valley of the shadow of death. They drove very fast. If y'all haven't been around, emergency vehicles go really fast, don't they? God was with them. They never looked back. They just charged forward to save lives. Thank you for that. Thank you for saving my life as I've been in fire before and being at the door to take me out and make sure I didn't die. Thank you all firemen for that. I was in Gatlinburg on September 11th, happened on vacation. We had about 2 days left. My daughter was almost 4. We woke up early because you know kids never let you sleep. Wake up first thing in the morning. My wife said, "Honey, look, there's something weird going on TV. This plane just crashed in the building. I don't think it's a movie." I go out there and look, and sure enough, there it is. And I just froze, like, no, I can't believe this. I had 16 years as an emergency responder. I started in the Air Force in 1985. I had 16 years to prepare for this day, but it wasn't enough. A few minutes later, the second plane crashed. Michael asked me this morning, we were doing an interview over here. How did I feel? I said, my heart sunk and my stomach sunk, and I fell back on the couch. I could not believe this was happening. In the Air Force, as a security police officer, ran a lot of nuclear weapons, so we prepared for war. We were ready for war. We were ready for all the bad things that was about to happen, that did happen on September 11th. Tears started coming down. My wife said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "This is not over. Because from here comes the White House, comes the Pentagon, the Golden Gate Bridge, probably Chicago, they're going to hit Texas. They're targets. Most of you know this. There's targets. There's a top 10 list, top 5 list for terrorists for the United States. I knew this because I was around nuclear weapons. I said, this is the beginning. This is the war I never wanted my family to go through. Everybody out here in uniform, that's ever wore a uniform, wore a badge, have never been afraid to run in that door, run down the street, run around the back. Whatever that call is, you run and you go. You just don't want your wife to be there. You don't want your children to go through that. I was in a mall in Ohio when an active shooter, and I could hear the gunshots go off. I was armed, obviously. The plain clothes. I started praying. You know, I'm thinking not today, but Lord, protect them. I'll protect myself too. You don't want your family hearing gunshots and your kids freaking out. As I fell back onto the couch, I started to pray. Lord, save as many as you can. And I just watched 2 planes crash in a building. I knew how many's on the plane. I knew how many had died instantly. Save as many as you can. I prayed for our leaders that day. I prayed for my boss because I knew in about 3 days I was headed home. I'm a former SWAT guy. I was an instructor teaching new people, teaching defensive tactics. My world was about violence and fighting. I was going to be very much involved in something in a couple days. I prayed for God to guide me and prepare me for this and protect my family as well. That was the day that there's so many emotions of anger. Anger was probably the biggest one, and sorrow, because I knew the lives that had been lost. That wasn't the last day I've experienced that's been like that. Not to that magnitude, but it wasn't the last day. Michael's got the greatest heart back there. He lives for this event. It's an honor to be here. I've got a 2-hour speech prepared, but I'm not going to take that long, I promise. For everybody that has helped, anybody in uniform that's out there watching, that'll see these on the media later, thank you. Thank you for helping those, for being there. Thank you for buying that officer lunch one day out of the kindness of your heart. As a first responder of almost 30 years, we greatly appreciate that. We don't expect it, we didn't ask for it, but thank you. For those that have helped the little old lady with the groceries in the trunk, out of kindness and peace in your heart, that's what we need in this country. 9/11, as Michael said, wasn't the first and won't be the last. 1993, there was an attempt at the World Trade Center that fell. 1995, we all know what happened to Oklahoma City bombing. 2001, it got big and large. So as we are still giving, as I mentioned, we still give. And we still give all, because it's not in our nature to give half. We're not part-timers. We don't, I'm going to use a bad word, we don't have ASS things in our line of work, do we? We commit 110% and full speed ahead. Empty stomach, no water, makes no difference. We'll put our gear on, our vest on, whatever it is, oxygen tank or a gun, whatever our duty calls, we put it on and we run forward. Thank you, everybody. I was going to put this shirt on, I'll just hold it up and show you. I'm just going to hold it up. When I got home from vacation that day, right after 9/11, I put this shirt on. Boone County Sheriff, Steve Larson, instructor. I was back to this, I was back to the war. This was not like the war against heroin. It was not like the war against meth and meth labs that I had been through as an investigator. It was a whole different war. We began 2-man cars. We began traffic stops with one of them, vanilla shotguns, MP5s, whatever we carried. 2 officers, one of them had a long gun at the ready. That's not what you normally see in Kentucky, is it? No. Tractor trailers up and down the road, every bomb dog we could get a hold of, north of Lexington, or on the interstate. We were stopping trucks and checking trucks. Months and months went by, not knowing what to expect. Thank you for the administrators of all of those in uniform, the chiefs, assistant chiefs that are out here. I know it was tough for Sheriff Helmy. All of a sudden, a lot more guns showed up, many bullets showed up, canisters of chemical agents showed up. We didn't know what to expect. We were just preparing for the worst. You know how you teach? Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Keep a Bible close at hand. I'm going to end this with that, Michael. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for being a part of this day. For Michael, I hope it's not his last day. I want to drive down here next year, stand up and tell him I love him again. I want him to wear a shirt like that next year. I want to see him, but
maybe it lasts.
Maybe. I'll be interested, then I'll come to your house.
Maybe Bell County will hold one. Maybe Darren. Maybe Darren will hold one. Maybe guys